May this deal be done. We have worked hard.
Striking writers have reached a tentative deal with Hollywood studios that is expected to bring a long strike to an end. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to West Coast Wrap. I'm Alex Savage. There is cautious optimism tonight in Hollywood that after nearly 5 months, writers will soon be back at work. Fox's Mike Emanuel has the latest tonight on where contract negotiations stand.
A nearly 5-month strike nears an end. Screenwriters in major Hollywood studios announcing a tentative deal Sunday, with the Writers Guild writing a letter to its 11,000-plus members saying, quote, "We can say with great pride that this deal is exceptional with meaningful gains and protections for writers in every sector of the membership." While the terms of the 3-year deal were not immediately public, the contract would increase pay rates and residual payments for streaming shows, while adding protections in regard to artificial intelligence in the content production process.
May this deal be done. We have worked hard, the beat of our feet on the streets, and I think it's really set the tone for other workers in America and other unions.
But the strike isn't officially over until union members hold a final vote. Until then, members are being encouraged to join the separate actors strike, who say they are seeking, among other things, 2% of the total revenue generated by streaming shows, something the studios have said is a non-starter.
Super worried, but I'm more worried about the crew members. You know, the makeup, the hair, the grips, the electrics. You know, people who work the long hours and have nowhere to go right now. Nowhere to go while we fight this out.
Once the WGA strike is finalized, it's late-night talk shows that are expected to be among the first to return to normalcy. With producers, they could get back on air by early October. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
Governor Gavin Newsom issued a statement on the tentative deal, saying in part, quote, "California's entertainment industry would not be what it is today without our world-class writers. I am grateful that the two sides have come together to reach an agreement that benefits all parties involved and can put a major piece of California's economy back to work." And President Biden weighed in with this statement, saying that he applauds the Writers Guild of America and the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers for reaching that tentative agreement that will allow writers to return to the important work of telling the stories of our nation, our world, and all of us. While the screenwriters have an agreement with the major studios, Hollywood actors with SAG-AFTRA remain on strike tonight. I talked with Professor Anita Deshields from the USC School of Dramatic Arts about what it took for the Writers Union to get this deal done and what it means for striking actors.
It really took a lot of thought and care and tenacity in terms of really being very clear from the writer's perspective, the WGA perspective, and their negotiating team about what were the points, the specific areas that they wanted to make sure were covered, were really thought through in terms of hashing out the details, in terms of the streaming, in terms of higher wage pay and rate for working on a particular creative project. I think if all of that continues to move with that sort of synergy and optimism, it absolutely bodes well for the SAG-AFTRA and puts them in a really, I think, stronger position to, again, negotiate and hold fast to their terms, to their values, to what they really think is fair and equitable terms in this work, and protecting their creative property and their license in that way. It should bode well for SAG-AFTRA as well as WGA.
And if members of the Writers Guild do ratify this tentative agreement, Professor Deshields told me production on many popular shows would likely ramp up within the next 2 to 3 weeks. 75,000 Kaiser Permanente workers have threatened to go on strike if a bargaining deal is not reached by the end of this week. Their union says members would walk out for 3 days in October at hundreds of healthcare facilities across several states, including California, Oregon, and Washington. The union says Kaiser has failed to address a staffing crisis that has led to dangerous wait times for patients. Kaiser says the union's claims are, quote, misleading. And hundreds of medical providers at dialysis centers across California say they will go on strike this week over what they call unfair labor practices. The strike is planned for Monday and Tuesday at 24 satellite healthcare and Fresenius kidney care clinics across California. Registered nurses, patient care technicians, social workers, hemodialysis technicians, and other providers are all planning to participate in that walkout. Now we turn tonight to a big change in the weather here in the West. An early season storm is making its way onshore tonight, bringing with it a whole lot of rain to Washington, Oregon, and even Northern California. The wet weather is going to be a huge help to firefighters on the lines in Oregon and California, where there still are fires burning. Meteorologist Rosemary Orozco joining us now with a closer look at this system. Rosemary?
Yes, Alex, beneficial rain, as you said a moment ago. However, notice the system here tapping into what we know as the atmospheric river. And so with that, they're actually going to get quite a bit of rain over areas of the Pacific Northwest. You can see the rain from Washington through Oregon, Northern California, all the way down to the San Francisco Bay Area expected. And this system here considered a bomb cyclone, so a strong storm for this time of year. All that means is the pressure at the center of this storm has dropped more than 24 millibars in about a 24-hour period. So with that said, they are expecting a bit of heavy rain that could lead to a little bit of flash flooding if, of course, those burn scar areas are the target, and debris flow could also be a possibility, with anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of rainfall expected over areas of Washington, Oregon, and a few isolated areas may even get a little bit more than that. So we are tracking this storm here that again is moving all the way into Northern California at this time. A better look at what we can expect for the rest of the West coming up in just a bit.
We'll see you in a bit, Rosemary. Thank you. Along the central coast of California, construction work is now underway on the historic wharf in Capitola. It was damaged by last winter's storms. Huge waves along the coast pounded the wharf. This repair job will include the installation of new support pilings, replacement of the deck and railings, as well as new restrooms. Officials say upgraded materials such as fiberglass piers are being used to help make sure the wharf is stronger moving forward. Construction is expected to be completed before the end of next year. An investigation is underway tonight in Bakersfield, California, after a deadly police shooting there. Authorities say Bakersfield officers shot and killed an armed man after he got into a shootout with an off-duty Los Angeles police officer. All of this unfolded back on August 24th in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Bakersfield police have just released video of the confrontation. Authorities say this started when the off-duty LAPD officer who lives in Bakersfield called 911 from his car, reporting a suspicious person he believed was trying to break into homes. During that call, police say the suspect and the off-duty officer exchanged gunfire. And then, when Bakersfield police arrived, officers exchanged gunfire with the man who authorities say refused to drop his weapon.
We will not shoot at you if you put both hands out! Drop the gun!
That suspect, 29-year-old Jason Bowles, died at the scene. 2 Bakersfield officers did suffer non-life-threatening injuries during that shootout. The officers who opened fire are now on administrative leave during this investigation. Hundreds of people gathered in Santa Clarita near Los Angeles to honor L.A. County Sheriff's Deputy Ryan Klinkenbroomer, who was killed in an ambush attack. The 30-year-old deputy grew up in Santa Clarita. He was killed last weekend outside the Palmdale Sheriff's Station when a man drove up and shot into his cruiser. A suspect has been arrested, and his preliminary hearing is set to happen in November. A bike shop in the Seattle area has been hit once again by thieves, and this marks at least the 9th break-in there over the past few years. The latest burglary at the Northwest Tryon Bike Store in Kent, Washington happened on September 16th. Surveillance video shows a pickup truck ramming into the building. The owners say they're constantly upping their security, and they're fed up.
It's just pure frustration. You know, how do you continue to run a successful business when you're dealing with, you know, stuff like this?
We're constantly checking the parking lot cameras just to see if there's activity in the area, and we're losing sleep over it, and we're tired.
The owners say their customers and the biking community have been supportive, and they're even helping to raise money to help up with repair costs at the store. In the Bay Area, more than 200 business owners in Oakland say they're going on strike tomorrow to highlight their concerns about rising crime in the city and the toll it's taking on their businesses. Those businesses are planning to close for at least part of the day. Organizers say they're upset with city officials after Oakland failed to meet the deadline that would have granted state funding to the city to help prevent retail crime. Another bus of migrants arrived today in Los Angeles. The 38 people on this bus traveled from Del Rio, Texas to Los Angeles. According to the Coalition for Human Immigrant Rights, the group includes 23 adults and 15 children from Colombia, Ecuador, Honduras, and Venezuela. The group says some of them hadn't eaten in days. Most have sponsors or family here and will be united with them. This marks the 16th busload of migrants from Texas since June. An emotional day for Lahaina residents allowed back inside the fire zone on Maui 2 months after that deadly wildfire there. Also, a teenager kidnapped in Southern California and held for ransom for 5 days. How the FBI managed to rescue the teen and track down the suspects accused of abducting him. After almost 2 months, residents on Maui were allowed back inside the Lahaina fire zone today to see what happened to their homes after flames swept through that historic oceanfront town. Fox's Gernal Scott has the story tonight.
It's an emotional day in Hawaii. Residents of the burned-out town of Lahaina returning for the first time since the deadly wildfires that killed dozens back in August. Many are coming home to little more than ashes, the fast-moving flames virtually wiping out entire neighborhoods. Local officials say they'll be out in force to help anxious homeowners with logistical questions, but the main focus at this point is mental health.
Maybe collecting information, photographs for insurance purposes, but most important is getting that closure. For many of them that left in the midst of the fire, this is going to be the first opportunity to go back and really see what's left.
But not every homeowner will be allowed back on this first visit. Only 464 properties have been cleared for visitation by the EPA, compared to more than 2,200 structures reported damaged or destroyed. Most residents who did get back to Lahaina on Monday said their top priority was recovering personal possessions.
My wife said, I do not have any picture of my dad. because it's been all the way up to the fire.
Meanwhile, aid is still pouring in for those who lost their homes and businesses. The Red Cross is helping to care for some 7,600 people, about 78% of Lahaina's population, but they say they're running out of resources.
We're looking for more of those, more partners that can come alongside of us for this journey and keep this investment moving forward.
West Maui is set to reopen to tourists on October 8th, but many locals say it's just too soon. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Police in Las Vegas say a man was killed over the weekend while working at one of the hotels on the Strip. The employee was critically injured while working on the fountains at the Bellagio Hotel. Police say 37-year-old Tizak Antonio suffered a major laceration to his neck and died at the hospital. Authorities have not said how he was injured, but the coroner has ruled it an accident, and police are investigating the exact circumstances. In Southern California, FBI agents rescued a teenager who had been kidnapped and held for ransom for several days. The 17-year-old boy, the 17-year-old boy had been held at a Motel 6 in Santa Maria near Santa Barbara. He was rescued Friday. Investigators say 3 Mexican nationals kidnapped the teen last Monday and demanded a $500,000 ransom from the boy's mother. Agents tracked the suspects' phones to the motel and took 3 armed men into custody. They're all in their 20s and all facing felony kidnapping charges. An Arizona woman is facing animal cruelty charges tonight after dozens of dogs were found inside her home. Police in Chandler, outside of Phoenix, arrested April McLaughlin on Friday after executing a search warrant at her home. Officers say they found more than 50 dogs, many of them disabled, living in filthy conditions with stacked cages and no access to water. Police also found 5 dead puppies inside of a freezer. The Humane Society has taken custody of the animals, and they say many of them are in bad shape. Some of the owners of those dogs are now trying to get their animals back. He was a 6-time All-Star, a Cy Young winner, and a 3-time world champion. To his family and friends, Vida Blue was a whole lot more. Today, they celebrated his life while honoring his legacy and his desire to give back. KTVU's Greg Lee has more tonight from Oakland.
How do you measure greatness? Those who knew him best say Vida Blue defined the word. On the baseball diamond, the legendary left-handed pitcher helped the A's win 3 consecutive World Series in 1972, 73, and 74. The 6-time All-Star also had successful stints with the Giants.
As a lot of us former players do, we go to the book, we go to the stats, black and white. How good was this guy really? So I looked him up, and I found out he wasn't very good. He was exceptional.
We go straight to the backyard or front, and we do that. We emulate Vida's hot leg kick and pretend we throw in the blue blazer.
But it's the work he did off the field his friends say they'll remember most.
A trendsetter, a trailblazer, just an amazing guy, but he always made you feel comfortable and warm when he was around.
The true measure of the guys in that era was what they contributed to the community. His middle name should have been generosity, giving, loving.
Friends, family, and some of the Bay Area's greatest former athletes came to the Sequoia Country Club to celebrate the life of Vida Blue. He died in May at the age of 73 from complications from cancer.
I think in the last 15 years, our relationship has just blossomed. So I realized, yeah, he was my best friend. You don't realize those things until people are gone.
I always like to say, sometimes when you meet your heroes, they're not what you expect. But Vida was that and all that and more.
While they gathered to honor his life, they also continued his legacy. Blue started this golf tournament 10 years ago to raise funds for Northern Lights School in Oakland.
You're keeping Vida's dream growing ever stronger.
Let's remember to keep putting that foot forward, helping our community. And again, like Michelle said, impossible is nothing, y'all.
No question, Vida Blue left an impact every time he put on his uniform, but it was the man beneath it whose light will continue to shine.
The way that you talk about Vida today, the kind of person that I have known him to be, you get to see the sermon he preached, and he preached his sermon well.
On this day, Vida, you're remembered, you're loved, you're supported.
In Oakland, Greg Lee, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
All right, moving on to our West Coast weather here, starting out with an area that had a splendid afternoon. I'm talking about SoCal, Los Angeles, coming in with mostly sunny skies and 77 degrees this afternoon. Just a beautiful, mild fall-like day there. And then as we head to the north once again, taking a view here of Seattle, you can see the overcast skies, the dark conditions, in addition to the wet weather, cool weather. Areas over the Pacific Northwest due to this system now below average when it comes to the temps. Only 63 degrees this afternoon reported in Seattle. Here's a view again, once again, of that storm. Just a very significant storm for this time of year, very early fall, first week of fall. And here we are with a nice amount of rain. Now, this area definitely needs it, you know, with the drought and everything, but we are also concerned about the fires that are burning. On one flip side, it will help to put those fires out. But if too much rainfall in a short amount of time comes, then of course we have to worry about the possibility of flash flooding. So that's what's going on over areas of the Pacific Northwest as it taps into this subtropical moisture we know as the tropospheric river. Giving you a look a little bit closer here, or atmospheric river, I should say. Washington, Oregon, in addition to the rain, may actually see a little bit of mountain snow. And we could see it a little bit farther to the east in the next coming days as well. Meanwhile, Northern California seeing the rain all the way down into areas of Lake County, and it looks like the northern section of the Bay Area with just a few 100ths of an inch expected over areas of the central and southern portions of the Bay. Here's a look at the forecast into tomorrow. Notice how by tomorrow afternoon, California is dry once again. Over areas of the Pacific Northwest, though, it continues to move through the business week. So continuing there with rainfall amounts expected anywhere from 1 inch to 3 inches, and some areas could pick up 3 to 5. So there will be some flooding concerns there at some point. Meanwhile, areas over California are going to be mild and dry for the rest of the week. And as we take a look at what's going on in Phoenix, still quite hot. 102 this afternoon, and expected to be toasty once again in the desert Southwest for tomorrow. In fact, a look here at the 3-day forecast in and around Phoenix, remaining toasty above 100 degrees Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. A beautiful setup for areas over California. And as we head back up towards the Pacific Northwest, temperatures remaining really cool for this time of year, upper 50s to low 60s with that possibility of wet weather. Alex?
Rosemary, thank you. Coming up tonight here on West Coast Wrap, a California fire department may be relaxing a key policy for its firefighters. We'll explain. Also, it's not just the biggest little city in the world anymore. How one popular magazine is now describing Reno, Nevada. California Governor Gavin Newsom will face off against Florida Republican Ron DeSantis in a live debate. The 90-minute debate is set for November 30th in Georgia. The exact location has yet to be determined, but it will be broadcast on Fox News with Sean Hannity set to moderate. Newsom has been an outspoken critic of the Florida governor over immigration, LGBTQ rights, and other issues. DeSantis is also set to appear in the second Republican debate at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley on Wednesday. Governor Newsom will lead the Democratic response after that debate. The Los Angeles County Fire Department is seeking public input now on whether to change its tattoo policy. Right now, the department requires all sworn members to cover visible ink with bandages, skin patches, or long sleeves. The 8-question survey is open to the public until October 6th. The possible change comes as the Air Force and Space Force have relaxed their own tattoo policies earlier this year amid decreasing recruitment. We now know who is going to be performing at the 2024 Super Bowl halftime show. The NFL announced Usher is going to be the headliner at this year's Super Bowl, which will be played in Las Vegas on February 11th, the first time at Allegiant Stadium there in Vegas. This is going to mark Usher's second Super Bowl appearance. He also performed alongside the Black Eyed Peas back in 2011. Should be a special performance there in Vegas for the Super Bowl. All right. A popular travel magazine has named Reno as the happiest place to live in America. Outside magazine looked at access to the outdoors, affordability, as well as diversity. Reno, of course, is just 20 miles north of Lake Tahoe and is known as the biggest little city in the world. A lot of happy folks there. Thank you so much for watching West Coast Wrap tonight. You can stay up to date on all the stories we're covering online. All you have to do is head to westcoastwrap.com. I hope you have a great rest of your night.